2 weeks later, Grace's phone rang with an unknown number. Her heart nearly stopped when she heard the voice on the other end. Grace, this is Abena Mensah. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning at 9? Grace barely slept that night. She arrived 15 minutes early, wearing the simplest dress she owned. Her hair pulled back, no jewelry except her grandmother's old bracelet. Mrs. Mensah's assistant led her to a corner office overlooking Accra's skyline. Mrs. Mensah sat not behind her desk, but in a chair beside the window. She gestured to the seat across from her. Tea? She offered. Thank you. Grace's hands shook as she accepted the cup. I received your letter, and letters from patients and Kofi as well. Mrs. Mensah studied her carefully. I've also been following your work. The shelter supervisor is a friend of mine. Grace's eyes widened. You've been watching? I needed to see if your words matched your actions. They do. Mrs. Mensah leaned forward. Grace, I believe in second chances, but they must be earned through changed behavior, not just changed words. I'm offering you a position in our community outreach department. Entry level. Probationary period of 1 year. It won't be glamorous, and it certainly won't pay what you made before. Grace's voice caught. Mrs. Mensah, I don't deserve this. None of us deserve grace, child. That's why it's called grace. The question is, what will you do with it? Grace wiped her eyes. I'll prove you right. I'll prove that people can change. Then we start Monday. 6 months passed. Grace threw herself into the work with a passion she'd never known before. She visited communities, listened to their needs, helped design programs that actually served people. Patients in Kofi had also been restored, each transformed by their own journey through humility. One Saturday, Grace coordinated the opening of a new community center in Nima, one of Accra's poorest neighborhoods. Evergreen Bank had funded the construction, and the architect was presenting the design to residents. The building includes affordable housing units on the upper floors, the architect explained, pointing to the model. Because everyone deserves a safe place to call home, regardless of income. Grace looked up from her clipboard and really saw him for the first time. Tall, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He spoke to the community members with genuine respect, asking their opinions, adjusting plans based on their feedback. After the presentation, Grace approached him. That was beautiful, the way you listened to them. He extended his hand. Kwame Mensah. Her heart skipped, but he quickly added, I know. I get the nepotism questions all the time, but I don't use my mother's position. I earned my architecture degree, and I choose projects based on impact, not profit. I wasn't going to ask that, Grace said, though she had wondered. I was going to ask if you'd want to grab coffee sometime to discuss the next phase of the project. His smile widened. I'd like that. Their coffee meeting turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long walks through Labadi Beach, talking about dreams and disappointments. Kwame shared his vision for affordable housing. Grace shared her journey of redemption, carefully leaving out the details of how she knew his mother. I wasn't always this person, she admitted one evening as they watched the sunset. Who was? He replied simply. 3 months into dating, Kwame said the words Grace had been dreading. Grace, I want you to meet my mother. Her face went pale. Your mother? Yeah, she runs Evergreen Bank. I think you two would really connect. Grace knew she couldn't avoid it any longer. That night, she told him everything. The humiliation, the firing, the second chance. She watched his face carefully, waiting for the disgust, the rejection. Instead, he was quiet for a long moment. "You're the Grace from the story. My mother mentioned what happened, though she never used names. I humiliated your mother, Kwame. I was cruel to her. I don't deserve you." He took her hands. "My mother gave you a second chance because she believed you could change. Who am I to take that away? Grace, I don't love who you were. I love who you're becoming. That's the woman I see." The family dinner was the most terrifying evening of Grace's life. Mrs. Mensah answered the door herself, and for a moment, the two women just looked at each other. "Mrs. Mensah, Grace," she interrupted gently, pulling her into an embrace. "You're not my employee tonight. You're the woman my son loves. And anyone who can transform themselves the way you have deserves more than a second chance. They deserve a family." Over dinner, they talked about the community programs, about Kwame's architecture projects, about life. When Grace excused herself to the restroom, Kwame followed his mother to the kitchen. "Are you sure about this, Mom?" Mrs. Mensah smiled. "Son, I've watched that young woman rebuild herself from the ground up. She didn't have to. She could have stayed bitter and blamed me. Instead, she chose transformation. That's the kind of strength that lasts." 1 year later, Grace and Kwame married in the courtyard of Evergreen Bank's headquarters. The ceremony was small but meaningful. Mrs. Mensah walked Grace down the aisle, and there wasn't a dry eye in attendance. "You showed me that transformation is real," Kwame said in his vows, his voice thick with emotion. Grace's voice shook as she replied, "You showed me I was worth saving." Patience and Kofi attended, both thriving in their own journeys. Clients from the shelter came, vendors from Macola Market, street kids Grace had mentored. The rich and poor celebrated together, just as Mrs. Mensah had always dreamed. But life had one more test in store. 2 years into marriage, Grace and Kwame struggled to conceive. Month after month of negative tests. Doctor visits that led nowhere. Well-meaning friends asking when the baby was coming. Family members offering unwanted advice. One night, Grace broke down completely. "Maybe this is my punishment. Maybe I don't deserve to be a mother after how I treated people." Kwame held her close. "Grace, that's not how grace works. We don't get blessings because we deserve them." Mrs. Mensah found Grace crying in her office one afternoon. She sat beside her and shared something she'd never told anyone outside family. "I lost a daughter. Before Kwame was born, she lived only 3 days. I thought God was punishing me for something. It nearly destroyed me." "How did you survive it?" "I learned that blessings come in their own time, in their own way, and that my worth as a woman wasn't tied to my ability to produce children. You are enough, Grace, baby or no baby." 3 years into their marriage, on an ordinary Tuesday morning, Grace fainted at a community event. Kwame rushed her to the hospital, terrified. The doctor came back with a smile. "Mrs. Mensah, congratulations. You're pregnant, about 10 weeks along." Grace sobbed into Kwame's chest. They called Mrs. Mensah immediately, who cried tears of joy over the phone. The pregnancy was smooth. Mrs. Mensah attended every doctor's appointment, helped decorate the nursery, and prayed over Grace's growing belly. When labor began, she paced the hospital corridor, praying until she heard the baby's first cry. Kwame emerged from the delivery room, tears streaming down his face. "Mom, it's a girl." Inside, Grace held a tiny, perfect daughter against her chest. Mrs. Mensah approached slowly, reverently. "We want to name her Abena Grace Mensah, Grace whispered, after the woman who saved my life. Mrs. Mensah took her granddaughter in her arms, and 3 generations connected in that moment. The grandmother who'd built a legacy of dignity, the mother who'd been broken and rebuilt, the child who represented hope itself. 5 years had passed since that terrible morning in the bank. Grace now led Evergreen's Community Dignity Initiative, a program that had served over 100,000 families. She taught her daughter the same lessons Mrs. Mensah had taught her: that everyone deserves respect, that grace transforms, that people aren't defined by their worst moments, but by what they become after. On little Abena's 3rd birthday, they visited the original bank branch. Grace showed her daughter the golden words above the entrance. "Dignity for all," Abena read slowly. "That's right, baby. All means everyone. No exceptions." In Mrs. Mensah's office hung a frame containing an old, wrinkled envelope, the one Grace had tossed aside years ago. Beneath it, a small plaque with Mrs. Mensah's handwritten words: "People aren't their worst moments. They're what they become after." Grace stood in the community center that evening, watching her daughter play with children from the shelter, from the markets, from the mansions on the hill. All playing together, all valued equally. She thought about the scared, prideful woman she'd been, the cruel words, the judgment, the pain she'd caused. But she also thought about the grace that had met her in that darkness, the second chance that became a new life, the forbidden love that became forever family. An elderly woman entered the center, clothes tattered, movements slow. Grace watched as young staff members immediately stood, offered chairs, brought water, asked how they could serve. The woman's eyes filled with tears. "God bless you all." Grace approached, knelt beside her. "God already has, Mama. He already has." Because grace, real grace, doesn't just change one person. It ripples outward, transforming everyone it touches, from enemy to family, from humiliation to love, from the worst moment to the best legacy. And in the end, that's what changes the world. If this story touched your heart, it's because transformation is possible for all of us. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me what second chance changed your life, and subscribe for more stories like this. Remember, you're never defined by your worst moment. You're defined by what you become after. See you in my next video.